This is Richard Wolff from Democracy at Work with another Wolff Responds. I want to talk about the American working class becoming active again in a way we haven't seen for a long time. I want to talk about it and I want to explain it. And then I want to end by suggesting where it may go. First of all, the signs of what I'm talking about. The last 4 or 5 months here in the United States have seen record numbers of people in the many millions quitting their jobs, not fired, not laid off, simply saying in a functioning business, I'm leaving. I'm not staying here. Your pay, your work conditions are unacceptable to me as a human being. I quit. This is remarkable. We've also had an uptick in unionization all over the place in this country, not just the big headline strikes at Kellogg's or at John Deere and so on, but in many, many, many smaller locations, public and private employees, manufacturing services. Mike Elk's remarkable payday report catalogs them in ways that we can all access and appreciate. So what's going on is a kind of, yes, activization of the working class, partly on a personal individual level. I quit. Partly on a collective transformational level, a strike to change the conditions at the job. So where does this come from? Why is this happening? This activization of the American working class. As always, it's the history that teaches us what happened and why it happened. So let's begin. Over the last 30 to 40 years, the American working class has suffered a remarkable experience given its history of the 150 years before that. Real wages, that is, the money you get for the job you do, adjusted for the prices you have to pay when you spend that money, real wages have gone up over the last 30 to 40 years, on average about 0.5% a year. It went much faster. It rose much faster in the previous 150 years, roughly 1820 to 1970. So to come down, to be flat, stagnant, which is what 0.5% a year, if you remember how fuzzy all statistics are, that's what that means. We have stagnated as an income earning, wage earning working class. And the only reason the standard of living rose over the last 30 years is because the working class in America found two solutions to the end of rising wages. Number one, do more hours of work a week, maybe in a second or third job. And even more important, because that wasn't enough, borrow more money than any working class in the history of the world had ever borrowed before. And when that ran out, you were exhausted and you couldn't borrow anymore. We had the great crash of 2008 and 9. We've had the rough last 10 years and the crash of 2020 and 2021. It's really been a terrifically hard time. And as if that weren't enough, the rising productivity of the American working class meant that they produced more and more, but they didn't get it. Who got it? The top 1%, the top 5%. In other words, over the last 40 years, not only did the working class take it on the chin compared to the previous 150, but it was making the rich richer all the time. And that made life difficult too. And then came COVID. And COVID proved that in this society, when there's a threat to everybody, a disease of that magnitude spreading across the land, we don't interrupt what had been going on. We don't stop the inequality. It got worse over the 2 years of the pandemic we've already lived at. The rich got richer and the rest of us went nowhere. So the country didn't slow down in its drive for ever greater inequality and the huge injustices that go with it. And that was enough to provoke the working class. And as if that weren't enough, what is the reward, if I can use that word, after 2 years of COVID and 2 years of economic depression, after a 10-year period since the last crash? An inflation. That's right, a smack in the face to the working class as wages go up over the last year 4 to 5% and prices go up 7+%. Falling behind yet again, with the worst of it, of course, for those who earn the least, which has become the signal that you're in a declining capitalist economic system. Of course, the working class has been provoked, and that's what you're seeing. You're seeing quitting, you're seeing strikes, as an angry working class says, we've had it, it's enough, we're going to do something now. And there are three choices before the working class. Number one, you can keep it at the individual level, quit your job. But behind that lies a mistake. You must understand, and you will soon, that leaving one employer who doesn't treat you correctly and moving to another one will lead you to discover that the other one behaves more or less the same, because this is a systemic problem. This isn't about this or that employer. Leaving one and looking for the other one is going to lead you to look for the same solution but never find it, because the system is driving the capitalists to do what they do, and they're doing it across the board with very few exceptions you're not likely to find. Second choice, you can fight to change the job, get more wages, get better working conditions, get a safer environment, and all the rest. That's what people striking are doing. That's what people joining and forming unions are doing. That is a response. But you may discover that the capitalist system has its own ways of handling that kind of response. And you know what it is. If you strike, if you fight, then you give an incentive to the employer to leave and go to China or India or Brazil or wherever and find workers that are cheaper or more docile or less activated yet. And here's another option, replace you with a machine. And here's another option, reverse the anti-immigration theater and bring immigrants, poor immigrants, back in to do the work that American workers, past and present, are no longer willing to do. So then what is the third option? Change this system. Stop this arrangement of this endless struggle between the workers and the employers. And even when the workers win a little bit, the employers have the position, have the resources to undo the victory. Change the system. Put working people in charge of the enterprises. Stop the division between employer and employee. Make them the same people. That's right, a worker co-op based economy. That's a better way to go, in my judgment, but it is the American working class that will make the decision whether to go the individual route of quitting, whether to go the middle route of union organizing and struggle, or whether to fight for a system change to get beyond it all. If discussions like this strike you as a worthwhile contribution to what we're discussing in this country and where this country goes, please partner with us. Share this video with your co-workers, with your family, with your friends. That's how we can expand our reach. And because all of this costs money, as you know, any help you can give us in that way by going to our website, democracyatwork.info, will be equally appreciated as part of our partnership. Thank you.